Last week I published a video diving into the final hours of Mica Miller's life. And when I was done, my wife came home from work and she wanted to see it. So we sat down and we watched it together. And while watching it, I noticed something in my own video that I didn't see before. At first I was angry with myself that this piece of evidence has been sitting right there in front of me for weeks. But then I got to work, scanning over dozens of photos, looking at something specific on the day Mica Miller died. When Mica Miller is at Dick's pawn shop purchasing a weapon, there's a truck that arrives. It pulls into the parking lot and then immediately backs out and continues in the direction that it was originally on. Now, when I saw this truck, I immediately pushed it to the side because I knew that was not the truck of John Paul Miller's. Because take a look at the truck from later that day, captured by traffic cameras. You can see the details: a chrome tailgate, a dark-colored bumper, all important to identifying John Paul Miller's vehicle. And then I remembered a picture that was sent to me early last week. And it's of John Paul Miller's truck. Take a look. This is from the parking lot of Tom Winslow's office, the attorney for John Paul Miller. And there is John Paul's truck. Not with a dark bumper, but with a chrome bumper, just like in the surveillance footage. A few days later, once again with a chrome bumper. Then a few days after that, at Winslow's office, John Paul's truck is back to the dark bumper. After realizing this, I then spent hours going over dozens of photos, looking at John Paul Miller's truck. I was stunned at the different combinations that he is creating by covering and uncovering certain parts of his vehicle. He's even changing the colors of his wheels. Another thing that threw me off, that in surveillance footage you can see a chrome running board. But in some photos of John Paul Miller's truck, you can't see those running boards. But take a look at this footage, provided by JLR Investigates.
Hey, how are you? A lot of people, hey, sir. A lot of people want to know if you murdered your wife.
John Paul Miller has retractable running boards. And in this footage taken by Guru MBTV, you can see the running boards as John Paul Miller avoids protesters. Not only that, there's a witness that places John Paul Miller in Myrtle Beach, not Charleston, like he said he was. Take a listen to this 911 call.
We did see him fly in there and fly out of there because he almost hit us in his blue truck and he took off. That was on Saturday morning.
Mm-hmm. But for me, the 911 call was not enough. So I called that neighbor. This is our conversation. Andy, you and your wife, on the day Mica died, y'all were headed towards the gym. Did you see John Paul?
Yeah, we come out of our driveway. You go, which is north. He's, I think, 4 houses down on the right. As we're going down, I had to stop because he come pulling real fast out of his driveway, almost hit me. Took off towards the stop sign, kind of ran the left stop sign because you had to go left because the main entrance of our neighborhood was blocked because they were putting a pipe down. He went through 2 4-way stops, come to another sign, took it. You come up to Palmetto Port Road, he took a quick right up that way, then went up to the main red light and went through it quick. He was going left there also, which that would be going north.
How fast was he going?
Gosh, he's probably, well, the speed limit was only 25, so probably 35 or 40. I mean, he was moving. He got stopped at the light. Yeah, he got stopped at the light. That's what stopped him. He almost ran it. He's going faster than that on that point. Yeah, he was moving really good. He was in a hurry. He was going somewhere quick.
And about what time did this happen?
Probably between 9:30 and 10:30.
Okay.
Yeah, because of 10. Right in there, because like I say, we usually go to the gym between that time.
And this was on the day Mica died.
Yeah, it was that Saturday. We didn't know anything. Nah, we didn't know nothing about him or nothing. He just come pull down his driveway like an idiot. I said, look at this idiot. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, thank y'all very much. So he was not, according to you, if I put you on the, well, not me, but if they put you on the stand, you're going to say he wasn't in Charleston. He was right there in your neighborhood.
He's in his driveway because he almost hit my new truck. That's what made me mad.
Well,
if I probably get her running down the red light, I'd probably have to worry with her. You know what I mean?
So according to this neighbor, between 9:30 and 10:30 in the morning, let's say around 10 a.m., John Paul Miller is speeding out of his neighborhood. And according to multiple witnesses who spoke to Mica hours before her death, Mica, at this time, was getting food from Chick-fil-A. Then at 11 a.m., Mica returns to her apartment. She gets ready for work and heads out at 11:38 a.m. Just over 30 minutes later, at 12:12 p.m., Mica Miller arrives at Dick's Pawn Shop. Just 20 minutes later, at 12:33 p.m., that's when this truck shows up. Take a look at the details. Stickers similar to the Solid Rock and Faith First Academy stickers we've seen on John Paul's truck. The chrome bumper, the black tailgate, the chrome running boards, all right there. Now, many of you are asking, how is John Paul doing this? Well, just for a few $100s, you can do the same also. The parts available right there on Amazon. Seconds later, Mica walks out of Dick's Pawn Shop and heads to the gas station. And if you want details of her path, go back and watch my video from last week. But after coming across this new information of John Paul Miller changing the look of his vehicle on a regular basis, I reached out to multiple witnesses because I wanted to hear, once again, from them. Did Mica fear for her life? They all answered yes. And a few of them said Mica believed she would be murdered. So, Charlotte, we've heard you say this before, but I wanted to get you on the phone and be very clear about the conversation you had with John Paul just hours after Mica's death. The next day, on that Sunday, April 28th, he called you and he said something really interesting that makes you believe he was tracking Mica the day she died.
Yes, he said, I have some more details for you if you want them. And he said she was supposed to go to work, but instead she went and bought a gun and then drove up to Lumberton. I thought she was on her way to see you. And he paused there and I just said, no. And then he proceeded to ask me 2 additional times if that were the case, if she was headed up to see me. And I just said no.
And the reason why that's key is because you live in Virginia. So her driving north would make him think that she is coming to see you.
Correct.
You also had a conversation with Mica not long ago about her fearing for her life. What was said in that conversation?
I did. It was when she first told me that she'd finally made up her mind to leave him. And at that time, I felt like I could finally tell her my true feelings about their relationship and my concerns and fears. And I said, you know that I tell my sisters everything. Well, I've told them all about your relationship and what I've witnessed. And we've all said that she needs to leave him. Otherwise, he's going to kill her. And she said, yeah, I can't say I haven't thought that too.
So you're telling me that Mica thought at one point that John Paul Miller might kill her?
I mean, the thought had crossed her mind. That's what she communicated to me.
Do you believe Mica took her own life?
Not one bit of me does.
And don't forget about the affidavits submitted by Mica's sister, Sierra Francis. According to her, Mica told her that if she ends up with a bullet in her head, John Paul did it. Now, Robeson County Sheriff's Department says that John Paul Miller was nowhere near Mica that day, and they spoke with the witness. But it's my belief that witness is none other than Susie Skinner. And the reason why I believe that, and this is my opinion, in their Facebook post announcing their findings, they say John Paul was with a woman he's allegedly romantically involved with. And if true, if the witness they spoke to is Susie Skinner, and John Paul turns out to be in Myrtle Beach and not Charleston, we have to question, should Susie Skinner be held responsible in some form or fashion? But let's say police did not speak to Susie. Let's eliminate that altogether. Let's listen to John Paul words himself.
Where were you when Mica died?
It was on a Saturday. I was in Charleston with about 100 people from my kids' school.
What was it?
Oh, soccer. It was a soccer tournament.
John Paul says he was with hundreds of people that day in Charleston, South Carolina. And I have to be honest with you. I have spent the last 3 months desperately trying to find one person who saw him there. I have contacted multiple people just as a few minutes ago, asking them if they have spoken to anybody who saw him in Charleston. I have reached out to multiple reporters who are covering this case, asking if they have spoken to anybody who saw John Paul Miller in Charleston that day, that morning specifically. Nobody has come forward. And let me be clear, I encourage anyone who saw John Paul in Charleston that morning to come forward. Speak up, because that piece of information is critical. But even with that, we cannot ignore that John Paul's truck was captured on traffic cameras. Now, in the information, it says Ori GT. I believe this picture was taken close to the Georgetown, Ori County line. If that's the case, if that's where this picture was taken, it's less than 30 minutes away from Dick's Pawn Shop. And you heard for yourself just how John Paul Miller drives. And according to multiple traffic tickets, he rarely follows traffic laws. No telling how fast he was driving on this day. But do I believe that John Paul Miller was near Mica when she arrived at the gas station? I just don't know. The timeline is tight. But I do believe that this truck, seen circling the gas station, is involved. And in my opinion, this truck, seen at Dick's Pawn Shop, is John Paul Miller. Now the question is, who pulled the trigger? I don't think it matters. There is no doubt that John Paul Miller was torturing Mica in the final days and months of her life. Do I believe Mica did this herself? No, I do not. Do I know who did it? No, I do not. But I believe John Paul is responsible, no matter who pulled the trigger. And because of that, because of what Mica endured in the final weeks, days, and hours of her life, I believe John Paul Miller should be charged with murder.